I hope you are. It is an awesome day, as we've just confirmed in Ohio, in Greensboro, and I'm sure looking out your window, it appears that you have a decent day down in South Kakalaki.
Not too bad for Cinco de Mayo. I hope you are going to celebrate today with some nachos, perhaps a cerveza. I don't know, maybe even a margarita, because the only people who celebrate this are Americans. I mean,
yes.
it's a small victory in Mexico in like 1600 something. But yeah, enjoy that cerveza or margarita and whatever else that goes along with Cinco de Mayo. Hey.
Yeah, man, we've got a little taco ruck happening, so there will be margaritas in the future. So it's all good.
I dig it.
Anything from across the nation you want to get into before we dive into our topic today?
No, we've got our newsletter. It's coming out on Monday. Got some pretty sweet stuff coming in there. If guys want to reach out and put anything in there, a lot of guys are drafting and writing things up, and I would much prefer to tell the story from someone else's perspective than me retell their story. So you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me directly at italianjob@f3nation.com. Love to get your content into the newsletter. Stuff about, the was now, what has F3 done for you? Those are the stories that really resonate. So those are stories we're looking for. What about you, TB? What's going on in your world?
Just living the dream right now. We're having a big week on the farm. Brought the F3 crew out here from Mebane, Burlington, and Greensboro. Get their first taste of Peace Haven. There's a video floating around the interwebs of a bunch of us lifting. I don't know how heavy the thing was, but it was a great coupon for an upcoming grow ruck. This giant golf cart into a dump truck. And I think that was the highlight of our weekend because we're all a bunch of meatheads. So
that checks.
Legends were made, bones were broken, anthills were stepped on. It was a good time.
I mean, it sounds like a victory in itself. Now, hey, I want to know what we're talking about. I really like the acronym, but I really much prefer what it's called. So what is GAD? What does that mean? And who are we talking to?
Yeah, well, once again, Slack has come through. Anytime a guy likes to talk about what he's doing on Stuff Worth Trying, we set our sights on it. So the guys from the Union, which is in Marysville, Ohio, had a great idea. It was part of a bigger conversation around what are you doing to welcome in your FNGs. And so let's get them introduced. We'll talk about what a GAD is exactly and give away the secrets of what it stands for. So that being said, we've got Village People and we've got UniBall. Guys, I'm going to bring you on as I see you on my Brady Bunch screen. So we'll start with you, Village People. Give us your name and Rama, and how'd you wind up with your handle?
Yeah, glad to be on, guys. Thanks for having us. So Brent Couchman, 32, Village People. I got Village People because I met my wife while we were working at the YMCA together.
Oh, it's good.
Pretty easy. Teed that one up pretty well for him.
That's great.
Outstanding. Well done. Yeah. Well done. And UniBall. I can't wait to hear this one, by the way.
Yeah. Matt, she's a 32 UniBall. And I got my name because I showed up to my first beat down, super excited, and I had rode my bike from my house, which is about a mile away. Because I figured this is a free workout. Why would I pay money to drive to it? So I rode my bike, and that lasted all about like 1 week because it's early mornings. And they just one thing led to another. They said, didn't you ride your bike here? Yeah. Didn't Lance Armstrong have one nut? So UniBall.
Well, I'm glad it's that and not like a really bad accident with a.
It's usually how the conversation goes. Yeah.
I must be sheltered because I was like, those pins kind of suck. But UniBall went a completely different direction, John Kruk style. So yeah, awesome. Welcome UniBall and welcome Village People. I mean, these are great names. Tommy boy, we gotta up our ante, man. Our names kind of suck in comparison to these.
I just got to come up with a better backstory is what I need. Nobody needs to know how I got the name until I make it up. So
that's right.
Fellas, I don't want to bury the lead. You created the acronym, so I'll allow you to share with the group what we're talking about today. Again, it's GAD, GAD. Tell us a little bit about that 30,000 foot view and what GAD stands for.
Yeah, so GAD is the Give a Damn Committee. So the main focus of this committee within our region is to focus on FNGs and Kotters. I think the best way to tell the story is to give a little bit of backstory of how it all got started. Our region was a starfish off of Columbus, Ohio. and we had opened up one AO, it was meeting twice a week. And it grew a heck of a lot faster than I think any of us anticipated. And so my caveman brain was just Excel sheet, name, number. Okay, did they attend today? Did they attend the next day? Like, that's how I'm tracking this, right? Like, and that's how I'm staying involved, like, because we were sharing a Slack with Columbus at the time. And so that was like how I was focusing on making sure no one became a Kotter and reaching out to FNGs. That worked for all of a year, and then it became too much, right? We branched off into our own region. We just continued to grow. And then so that's when I was like, hey, UniBall, you're our comms guy, you're our IT guy, like, build us something, because I can't do this anymore. One, I couldn't keep it up, and two, I was just getting burnt out of reaching out to everyone. So we were like, all right, we got to come up with, we're free to lead. We got to get this into other people's hands. So we're like, let's get like 4 guys who we know are at most of the workouts. They got a really good personality. They like reaching out to people. And so the real creative original name of FNG/Kotter Committee was the original name. We threw this together, appointed 4 people, said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? They're like, yeah. Okay, check mark off, move on to the next thing. Because, I mean, we were growing and growing and growing. We come back to it about 2 months later, and I was like, hey, how's this committee doing? And everyone's like, no one knows what to do. Nothing's happening. Like, I was like, okay, time out. Like, totally my fault. Like, it was checking a box and we were moving forward. Like, there was no expectations placed. There was no like, all right, this is kind of what we should be doing. So we all kind of huddled up and we're like, all right, let's set it out. And that's when I think I might've mentioned, like, guys, we just got to show that we give a damn about FNGs and Kotters. And they were like, that's a perfect name for this committee. Okay, there we go. So that's kind of how the name came to be. And yeah, so it's just showing that we care and that we give a damn about those guys that we see in the gloom.
Nice. UniBall, so you got pegged as the comms guy. You had to kind of build this thing out, as we like to say, you're kind of building that plane as you're flying it.
That's right.
So what, not technically of how the bot thing happens, we'll get to that later, but just tell us, like, what happens? Like, how do you get the FNG information in? How does somebody find out who to reach out to? Like, what is the process for that?
Yeah. Yes. We developed early on as a way of tracking to get people into that original Excel spreadsheet, right? Is whoever the site queue is, or the whoever's queuing the workout, it's the responsibility that when an FNG shows up, you're pairing up with them right at the end of the workout and capturing that information into a Google form, just so we can have good tracking and know who's actually showing up for the first time. So that's kind of how we know who the new folks are. And then we rely a lot on the data that gets ingested into the database, right? From the backblasts to know most recent time posts and things like that. But yeah, we originally went with the idea of a lot of the other AO or regions where they're building these dashboards, right? And my background is analytics and data as a full-time gig, and it got to the point where, like, we had this built out there, but nobody was actually going and looking at it, right? Which is always a problem in data and analytics land. And so we decided to implement some stuff to actually push it to the Slack channel in order to get it in front of the guys, right? So it goes into the Slack channel when someone hasn't showed up after a while, and just the guys on that committee kind of rotate through. Has so-and-so reached out to so-and-so in a while, right? And then so on and so forth. And that's just the way that at this point that we're actually knowing who to reach out to. It's really rests not on Village People or I, but on the men in that committee to actually reach out and do the follow-up.
So you guys are serving kind of 2 groups of people. This will be kind of a segue question, but we've heard before, we've talked before, the data's out there on stuffwe'retrying.com on the Triangle of Trust that was originated in Katy, Texas. What you kind of just shared is your region's version of that, I would say, which is great because, we are an organization of leaders, not an organization with leaders. And so when a region finds something that works for them, awesome. Does it become a template for everybody else? Not necessarily. That's not how we roll. So the fact that you guys took an opportunity to solve a problem that you were having is great. Before we jump into the Kotters, though, what are you guys seeing as far as the impact it's having on an FNG?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I'd heard of the triangle that Katie had put out there. You know, I've been able to meet Camo and speak with him. He's a great guy. I really like that idea. As I was hearing about that, we were also kind of forming this on our side. So I was like, well, let's just continue to form this and see how it goes and run with it. And it serves the same purpose, right? So basically, if you're an FNG, and I feel like what I'm about to explain is going to be very similar across a lot of regions, right? You come in, you're overwhelmed. You know, the guy who brought you is most likely going to have his arm around you, taking care of you most of the time. We've actually found a lot of our FNGs just find it on a website or on Facebook, like they aren't brought with somebody. So we have to make that initial connection right away. And so, you know, whether that's one of the more senior guys or maybe that's the AO site queue, making that initial connection. They, as UniBall mentioned, they will have you fill out that Google form that puts you in our database. And then what's happening is it automatically triggers once you've joined Slack into this private channel we have for the Give a Damn committee. And those guys, they're like, you know, piranhas biting at it. Like, all right, I'm going to reach out to this guy. Or I made a good connection with him in the gloom this morning. Yeah, I'm definitely going to hit him up and say, hey, you know, great to meet you. Do you have any questions about Slack? Do you have any questions about all the weird words you heard this morning? Like, you know, just being a friend and there to help out. And then, you know, asking them, when you coming back again? Here's our options tomorrow, like that kind of thing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I love the idea with the FNG capture forms, what we have in our region, where basically you input the name, the nickname, who was on queue, which AO, the date, and then that feeds into a channel where you've got your committee who sees it and says, all right, we need to reach out to Tommy Boy. He just posted yesterday. Let's get him, find out when he's going to post again. So that's our FNG component. Obviously, it gets the guys involved. They feel like they're part of something because it's real easy. I posted on Friday morning. Maybe I'll post next Friday, which turns into the following Friday, which turns into never again. So this is the impetus to get the guys going. Now, I love the idea that there's also a second part. It's not just FNGs, it's Kotters. So, you know, give me an idea about the Kotter piece. Like, how do you know when a Kotter has, other than I haven't seen UniBall in a while, does it also prompt those guys based on data inputs from the backblast? Like, how do you know to reach out? And I guess UniBall, that might be a question for you.
Yeah, I think it originally, the whole idea behind it came from, you know, back when we first started, we only had one site, right, one AO, and so we all pretty much grew intimately aware of one another. And so we knew right away when so-and-so hadn't showed up for a week, 2 weeks. And so I think that's where VP really, Village People, was really taking the onus and making those outreach, giving those text messages, letting them know we actually care and miss them out in the gloom. And as we grew, that obviously became unsustainable. And then once we started adding multiple AOs at the same time on the same day, well, now you're not sure if your buddy showed up at the other joint and just not with you. And so it really became a data issue at that point, really knowing who's showing up where, when. Now, I know a lot of folks have a lot of issues with Slack blast and the backblast, and it really comes down to, you know, your information is only as good as your data, right? And so we run a pretty tight ship. All of our queues actually write their own backblast, and we don't use the form, right? The Slack blast form. They can just copy it. Generally, they just copy the previous one and use that as a template. And since they're using the Slack handles, that is the know-how in the database to know when the last time someone showed up. So what we do from there, right, to actually, and again, we built some dashboards off that, and you could go and see when the last time, look up a name, like, oh, the last time they showed up was 35 days ago, right? I should probably reach out. The problem with that is most people aren't actually going in and looking at it, right? And unless they're looking for one specific person, and then again, that becomes unmanageable as well. And so what we did was we had to figure out a way to get this information into the GAD committee's hands to know, hey, so-and-so really hasn't showed up in a while. And so it started out that we would we integrated a Google sheet that pulls data out of the database based upon a certain query with parameters wrote in it. And then we integrated that with a Slack bot that we built that basically once a day will go in and look at that Google sheet for information and then push that information into the Slack channel that says, hey, so-and-so hasn't showed up in the last 14 days. And so that was our first attempt at it. And then as it grew, we realized that we would reach out after 2 weeks of someone not showing up. And then that was kind of it as far as the alerting for the GAD committee. And so just recently we opened that up to be every 2 weeks up until like 70 days. So someone will pop in that alert if they haven't showed up in 2 weeks. And then if 4 weeks goes by, they'll pop, their name will show up again. And that's when like the people on the committee, the men on the committee will rotate knowing, okay, I reached out to him last time. Somebody else try to reach out and try to make another connection. Let them know that that we care for them.
So I got to imagine that there's some pretty cool stories coming out of those touch points, right? Because I think when we all love to find excuses, right? When we first start, it's always an excuse. We have a list of excuses published on f3nation.com for crying out loud. And it's hard to get away from your own excuses when you've got multiple people who care about you chasing you down to get back together. So if you wouldn't mind, and the floor is open to both of you, tell us one of your favorite success stories with a Kotter.
Yeah, I invited all 4 members of our Kotter committee, but they all had obligations.
Excuses. They had excuses.
Should I call them right now? I can call them right now and get them back out here.
One of them's on a nice weekend with the Zim, and others on a plane, others working. All excuses, right? No, but what I can say, before this even became a thing, I know the guys have really enjoyed using it. They love the tool that UniBall has built. It just makes their life a heck of a lot easier. But one that really stands out is we had a PAX join, I want to say maybe like an October timeframe. So he was in the gloom for about 2 months, maybe, before it started getting cold. And then he just disappeared, right? Ohio winters can be rough, not as rough as some of our other regions that, we've spoken with, but they can be cold. And I reached out to him once a month for 4 months. And he every time kept telling me, once it's spring, hold me accountable, I'll be there. And so like the first 60-degree day in April, I hit him up and he came back. He is now one of our site queues. He is doing the GTE up in Toledo come June. So, I mean, it's just being able to stay on these guys, show them that you care, show them that you love them. It was really cool to be able to see how he's grown into it. And guess what? He made it through this entire winter. So
nice.
Yeah, I think I would add, as far as success, this really gives you a visibility into what's going on outside the gloom in men's life, right? Like a lot of times it's excuses, right? But like, for example, there's a guy who popped up on our alert early this week, and I'm not a part of the committee, but I'm in there just because I'm the tech guy, right? The comms guy. And so I said, hey, what's the word on this guy? And he's moving, right? And so that gives opportunity for to disperse that information to other hymns to see like, hey, is anybody available to help this guy move, right? And it's really like, because that's what we're here for, right? The fellowship part aspect. So just like without this, like a lot of us would never know what's actually going on behind or outside of the gloom in these men's lives.
Yeah, no doubt. Good on you guys. Well, as the one testicled man with the analytical plan, if guys want to rebuild or recreate or bastardize the dashboards that you've created, how do they go about reaching out to you, UniBall?
Yeah, I think I'm in the Nation channel. People can post in there. I did at one point post all the code inside there's a comms and tech channel inside the Nation channel. So I posted it all there for folks to kind of review and make better, really. But yeah, absolutely reach out, email, either way.
Outstanding. IJ, anything from you, my friend, before we close this sucker out?
I'll tell you what, man. I love the concept of there's a problem and finding a solution. In a world that finds more problems than solutions and likes to complain about whatever's wrong and never bring something to the table, you guys did exactly what we expect guys, high impact men to do. When met with an obstacle, you go over the obstacle. And I recently heard Michael Easter talking about obstacles and problems. And the fact is, without a problem, there is no story. If you don't have a problem, it's just, and when everything's going well, no one cares. But you want to hear that time when you're down on your luck and how you overcame that. So you guys are literally talking about, a wall that, you don't see it. It's not a physical wall, but these guys, they show up and do these guys really care? I mean, that was a cool workout, but it was a little bit more difficult than I wanted to do. Maybe I'll go back out if somebody, comes and picks me up, or maybe I just need that extra push. Now, some guys are going to go the first day and they come back tomorrow ready for more. Other guys need a little bit of encouragement. So super encouraged that you guys did exactly that. You found a problem, you found a solution, and you're willing to share that solution. So kudos, T-claps. That's exactly what we're talking about. TV, I don't have words of wisdom other than just saying, man, this is awesome. This is exactly what we exist to do. Is stuff worth trying. Is this is worth trying because it's successful. And it sounds like UniBall has done the heavy lifting. We just have to make sure that, you just plug in the code and make it happen, and then get a group of guys who are interested and reaching out and getting more guys to come out, because, in a world where loneliness is creeping up and it's a pandemic and epidemic that's killing people, literally killing people, guys need to have those connections. And sometimes what they need is for someone to reach out and say, it was great working out with you. When are we doing it again? So good on you, brother. TB, I'll toss it back to you, man.
VP, UB. We're just going to use everybody's initials. Appreciate you guys coming on the show. Thanks for carving out some time. Give some slack to the guys who made excuses to not be here, so much so that they hopped on planes to fly away from you. Much love from the Stuff We're Trying podcast. So appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for what you're doing, and keep up the good work in Ohio. All right?
Thank you all.
Thanks, y'all.
Appreciate
Absolutely.
you, man.
Podpaxers, be good. Be good at it.